sunglasses and a hat. Well, the hat has a very practical purpose. It's because my hair, as you can see, is a little crazy right now. So that's the reason for the hat. The sunglasses, I actually thought I would just kind of take it easy on myself and, try using sunglasses in the video, because I knew that I had a lot to say. I wrote it down. I wasn't sure, how I was going to be able to read it, because, not a lot of people know how I used to do the episodes. I would write out, the full episode script, and then I would have the script sort of not painted, but it was like taped on the modular. So like I could just read along as I was going through the modules, so I wouldn't forget anything. My problem was, I would always get off track when I would be reading, and so what it turned into, what was a one-page document would turn into 3 or 4 pages, because I decided to be the improviser. But at any rate, I still would go back and sort of scrutinize those and be like, okay, so am I doing enough? Did I cover all the bases? Because if I didn't, I would just start over, do it again. And that's kind of the nature of the beast. So. What got me into synthesizers? Well, in my teens, 20s and 30s, I was kind of obsessed with electronic music, bands like Coil, Depeche Mode, Nine Inch Nails, Skinny Puppy, Ministry, Chemical Brothers. Those were all bands that I listened to constantly. And whenever I would, read, news articles or internet blogs or see on TV, stuff about them, I would be sort of focused on the synthesizers as much as I was the music. And I had this sort of like just curiosity about them and wanted to know more. I would even get to that point where, I'd want to play the Name a Synth game, look in the picture and that's a min move. How did I get into modular synths? Well, my passion for music and technology has sort of always been there. When I was a kid, I used to really be into, the Commodore 64 and VIC-20 and Atari and Nintendo and all those. And then later, when I finally got to college and I was studying music and technology, after switching majors several times, I finally landed on music as my degree for undergrad. And, I was more choosing it as a way to gain access to some of the courses that I wanted to take, like Introduction to Electronic Music, like music composition, music theory. Those were all things that I wanted to learn, but I was struggling to sort of teach them to myself, even though I would go to the library and, find books and things like that. So something that did, sort of come out of that, journey into the libraries with books, was I discovered all these old, I'll call them old, but they're books basically from the 80s, the 70s, and sometimes the 60s on electronic music and vintage synthesizers. I think it was one by Mark Vail. And then I found this other book, The A to Z of Analog Synthesizers. I think that's the name of it. But that book just like blew my mind. Like I loved that book. I loved it so much that I checked it out multiple times, and it wasn't until like the second or third time that, I realized, I can go to the photocopy place and just make photocopies of it and then put it in a binder, and then I'll have my own copy of the book, and I wouldn't have bought the book. I just paid for the copies. So I did that, and, I had that binder book for a really long time, and I would study that thing, every day or two. I would be going through there, and for me, having grown up with the program Wild Kingdom, it sort of reminded me of Wild Kingdom, because there used to be, I don't know if it was just me, but there were these cards that you used to be able to get, and each card would have different animals on it, and each animal would have all these, statistics and names and, information about the animal. And that's how I kind of felt about the A to Z to analog synthesizers was, okay, here you have all these like different electronic creatures, and then here's all their features. And, just going through the book and finding words I didn't know what they meant, like oscillators, VCAs, like it just kept me going and kept pushing me to learn more. And then I started, learning more about specific synthesizers like the DX7, the ARP2600, the MS20, but I never really was able to get my hands on one or see one anywhere. So at any rate, for modular synthesis, I finally found this book called Electronic Music Systems, Techniques and Controls by Alan Strange. And that book really perplexed me because a lot of times whenever I read something, I'm kind of a very visual person, so I will try to visualize, whatever it is that I'm reading. But with this book, I really couldn't visualize it. Like I was just kind of like, what are these things that they're talking about? I've never seen them before. And, I would look and then I would see these pictures of someone standing next to this 6-foot modular. But the lettering on it was so small and all I saw was a bunch of cables and stuff. I was like, what is that? What is that amazing thing? Whatever it is, it must be amazing. Look at all those cables. That means it's amazing. So that kind of got my interest perked up and, my excitement going a little bit. So I read that book for a long time. And I think right around the same time, it might have been coincidence, I don't know, I started getting really into craft work. This was kind of in my 30s already. And it was kind of interesting because, one of my favorite Kraftwerk albums is Computer World, and I was kind of like listening to it obsessively, over and over again, and I was just like, wow, these sounds, these are amazing. And it was just so interesting to me that I could connect with, album releases that hadn't been around for, 10, 20 years before I was even around. So I found that so intriguing that, I decided to learn more and get more into it. And of course, I finally got into the German versions of the Kraftwerk albums, and that was great too. Well, I started learning about modular synthesis and like how to do it, partially from my music education. I had courses like introduction to music production, introduction to electronic music, music since I think it's 1942 was a book that we used for like 20th century music, where they talked about electronic music and avant-garde music, that kind of stuff. But as far as the modular synthesizer part, I started looking and seeking out videos online. I was also really into audio at the time, so I was reading a lot of audiobooks by Craig Anderton. I went to a recording school here in San Antonio back in the early 2000s called the Audio Engineering Institute. And then later, a couple of years later, I felt like I wanted to know more. I wanted more. So I went to visit a second recording school in Chillicothe, Ohio, the Recording Workshop, and I took their recording program and, made my way through that. Loved it, loved the experience, loved the people, loved, everything about it. It was just great. At any rate, after that, I thought, well, okay, I'm building this, good resume for myself. What is it that I can do now to, sort of separate myself from the pack? What can I do? And at the time, there was a school in California that was offering Pro Tools certification. I was like, well, that's like the top of the line right now. Everybody's into Pro Tools. So I decided I'd go out to California. I went to a school called Future Rhythm. Bruce and John that were there, they were great, great teachers. And then I got my music production and post-production certifications, like I think at the whatever the starter level is, because what they call the expert certifications hadn't actually come out yet, so there wasn't a test that I could take to get those. But once I got those certifications, I was essentially the only one in San Antonio that had that specific certification. So I knew, okay, now I have some sort of leverage to be able to try to get my way into a job that's music related, and that would be fun. But from that, I kept teaching myself more about, more synthesizers, more recording techniques. Then I started getting into more like the esoteric stuff, like Intro to C sound and things like that. Mainly because I had really always wanted to go to the Berklee School of Music. And one thing I did, since I could not afford it, and I didn't really have like the drive and ambition and the practicing thing behind me to be able to go there, I instead kind of looked up all the college courses that were part of their music synthesis program, and cross-referenced the textbooks and then looked for the textbooks. So either bought the textbooks for myself, or I went to the library and tried to get it from there. I would read through them like I would read, a person would read through a novel. Like I would just sit down from the beginning all the way to the end. From the beginning all the way to the end. But I didn't have anyone teaching me, the specifics, and I didn't have anything but, whatever the questions are that they usually have at the end of each chapter. As a result of that, eventually it wound up paying off. Yeah, it actually did. It didn't land me a job right away that I liked. I was initially, when I came back to San Antonio after being certified, I got a job shortly. I think I worked twice. It was at a recording studio here in town. But it was basically like me watching other people record. I really wasn't even to the level of okay, put up the cables, you're going to be the person cleaning up or anything like that. They were just kind of still showing me around the studio and, getting me used to what the rooms look like and, what was in the different rooms. So that way I could be, sort of set if I was ever looking for anything. But I found it really boring because I felt like I was just standing around a lot of the time. So for me, it wasn't the best fit. Ultimately, I left that job and I was still applying, other places. What wound up happening was one day I just on a lark, applied to this company online and then, went out to dinner. And then 30 minutes later, I got a phone call. That phone call, turned out to be a recruiter. Talked to the recruiter for a little while. A couple days later, I talked and met with a manager. And then I think that week I was being offered, a trip to California to train for certain things. I would say more, but I signed a non-disclosure, so I can't say more. Well, what inspired my Raul's World of Synths videos was I had bought, one of my first modular pieces of gear. It was the A188-1 BBD delay, the 4096 model. And I was really kind of struggling to understand it. And, in my other job, or my daytime job, I was actually a trainer. So, one of the things that I learned from training was, when you can teach it, you can learn it better, and then you kind of know it better. So I made the video just kind of, on a whim, and was like, oh, okay, well, I'll make this video for myself. I'll kind of go through the manual and then name all the things, and then hopefully, maybe that will help me. And shockingly, it did. It did not only help me learn it, but then, I got more views on that one video than I had gotten on all my other silly videos that were on there for years that only got like 25 hits. And this was only in the first week, so I was a little bit, awestruck by the reception. It didn't really seem like a lot, but now, years later, I'm kind of like, wow, that's a lot. But at any rate, back in 2011, there wasn't really a lot of videos on synthesizers, at least not modular synthesizers, where you could really see the modules. It was clear what all of the things in the modules did. You know, what was this function doing? What was that function doing? You know, when I turn this, what does it do? When I turn that, what does it do? You know, what are the limits of it? What are, you know, the boundaries of the bottom end? You know, like what all can it do? Like, I wanted to know more. So I decided to sort of continue to do it. Since I was getting a reception, I reached out to Dofer via email, and I told him, you know, hey, I got a pretty big reception to this one video. You know, would you like to collaborate? And I think that's where it started. Funny enough, it was maybe partially inspired by a movie with the Weird Al Yankovic, UHF, and I say partially because you know, one of the characters in the movie, his name was Raul, and my name is Raul. But at the time, I had gotten some synthesizers in my house, so I had like a Juno 106, I had a Roland XP10. I had a Jomax Airbase 99. I think I had a Waldorf, not an original way, but the one that came out after that. And then I think I had an MS404 at the time as well. And an S900, I forgot about that one. Or S1000, sorry. But at any rate, that was my gear. So, you know, when I saw, you know, the movie, which I hadn't, you know, really seen a lot, I was kind of like, oh, well, my name's Raul. Oh, well, look at all these synths. And all these synths are kind of like, you know, kind of went along with that A to Z idea that I was talking about earlier, where they're all sort of like these different creatures and they have all these different characteristics and you can see them out in the wild. You know, and so I kind of liked it. You know, I said, well, yeah, it's Raul's World of Synths. So I went from there. Well, part of it was at the time that I took a break from my YouTube channels, I really kind of felt outpaced by, you know, some of the other creators out there like DivKid and, you know, even some of the awesome videos by Walker from Make Noise. I was really impressed, you know, how far like the sort of genre of modular videos had sort of expanded. You know, I started seeing, you know, this video pop up, that video pop up, and they're just kind of like popping up from all over the place. And the quality was going up. So, like, you know, all those years of videos that were in a poorly lit room or garage or something, where some guy was, you know, turning some knobs, but you couldn't really tell what he was doing. You know, all that was gone. You know, like, I was starting to actually see things and actually learn things. You know, I could even zoom in and like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I understand what he's doing. Yeah, that was part of the issue. But also, the main thing that kind of drove my decision was, you know, I had kind of gotten in a flow with the two channels, you know, publishing weekly and, you know, doing things on a weekly basis, you know, sending and posting things on ModWiggler, you know, sending emails to Matrix Synth to try and, you know, keep promoting my videos. And I was also engaged and soon to be a father. And my now ex-wife had 3 kids of her own, so those were going to be my stepkids. And with all that kind of happening at the same time, it was like the perfect storm, you know. It just kind of made sense for me to stop because I knew I was not going to have the time to devote that I did prior. Well, now I feel like I have a better handling on, you know, parenting. I'm happily divorced. You know, we're still good friends. We co-parent our child Gregory. And now that I have a work from home job, I have, you know, some free time to do things again, and I've kind of fallen back into the synth interest, you know, with VCB and just kind of looking at all the new trends and all the new stuff that's been coming out. It's interesting because, the emails and the Facebook messages and the YouTube comments never stopped. Like, I stopped, but those did not stop, and the views did not stop. I had consistent views every year for a while. And then even now, like, I still have views. Like, I think I had 10,000 in the last month on Raul's World of Synths. I don't know what the number is on Modular Wild, but I think it's something similar. So I know someone out there is watching them. I don't always get to meet the people watching them, but when I do get to meet those people, they're usually the coolest people in the world. And not just because they like me, but because they're cool already. And so, and the reason I bring this up is because this actually happened to me the other day. Like, I was going on Instagram and I was like, okay, I want to get some more stuff to kind of inspire me on a daily basis and kind of keep me moving forward and, learning new things and seeing new approaches and all that kind of stuff. So I saw this band called Animistic Beliefs. I don't remember, what country they were from, but I remember, like, the video that popped up, it was like very dance beat oriented, but alternative at the same time. And I really dug it, and it had a really good energy behind it. And so I just said, okay, well, I'll just follow them. So I hit follow, and then, a couple hours later, I think I had opened up my phone, and I had received a message from them, and they said that they used to watch my videos when they were first starting out, and I was like, whoa. No one really has to watch my channel. I'm not out there twisting anyone's arm to watch it. Over the years, I've gotten positive comments and also negative comments, so I'm open to both. I think when I get a negative comment, I kind of look at it like, what's the message that they're trying to convey there? Is there, like a valid response? Because everybody's response, is not going to be the same for a video. So, I look at it kind of like constructive criticism. I want to know more, like, well, what about me did you not like? Or what about the video did you not like? Or, did you want to see more of this? Or did you want to see more of that? Or you wish I had done the oscillator with the filter versus the filter with the envelope, that kind of thing. So, totally open to feedback. So, if people want to leave feedback, that's great. If they're interested in sound and they're interested in synthesis and they're interested in music and Eurorack, and they have a love for it like I do, then we might share some of the same interests. Maybe we even have some of the same backgrounds, like, in recording school or music or whatever. And YouTube has always been kind of a free resource, which I really like the fact that I can put resources out there and the people that want to have access to them get access to them almost immediately. And that's the one kind of sort of beacon that I've always focused on with the YouTube videos, is that, that's something that I can share with other people that they get benefit from, and it helps them in their production or their music or their practicing or whatever it is. That's something I've always appreciated. Well, there's lots of ways you can support my channel. You can watch videos. I mean, that's supporting the channel right there. You can enjoy the videos. You can comment on the videos. You can like the videos. You can share the videos with your friends and family and your pets, and your toy poodles. At any rate, when you do all that stuff, you're engaging with me, and I usually will read the comments. I always read the comments, and I don't always reply right away. I think I'm really terrible about that. I've seen myself reply on comments like 3 years later, which is just, I think that's kind of unacceptable, but I need to really be better about that. So apologies if I kind of like gave you a comment back or a reply after a very long period of time. But jumping on YouTube wasn't always the first thing I would do in the morning, when I was on a hiatus. So for the present day, If you want to support the channel, I set up a LiberaPay account for donations. You know, you can donate as small as, I think it's 52 cents for the whole year. But you can also, of course, donate more if you wanted to. And again, it's not a necessity. It's just something to help move the channel forward and, you know, make more videos and allow me the time to do more. Because right now, you know, it's basically a one-man show. I do the video editing, I do the video production, I do the video directing, I do the publishing, I do the media, I do the recording, you know, and it's a lot of work. But I also have some new ideas for future episodes that hopefully will take off, that will sort of expand. I don't want to give away too much, but that will expand sort of what I do. So I look forward to hopefully being able to do some of those things in the future and continue to, you know, make a positive impact on the culture.